we have so much value in our stories and so much value in how hard that we've worked and trying to get people to key into that for themselves. It's so hard for them to get out of their own head about making those changes because it is scary. You get comfortable, even if you're miserable, because at least you know that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
this is the pain I'm in. I can deal with that because I've been dealing with it for so long. And it's a huge fear to get away from that.
Better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
That
When you
is
think about it, that's why so many people stay in abusive relationships and stuff. I think about that all the time. It's like, why do women stay with those toxic guys and even put up with abuse and stuff? That's the way a lot of us were with food.
yeah.
Like that relationship with food, it's so much easier than changing and giving up some of those relationships.
I feel like that's what it really is like it's just the fear of the unknown. And it's part of the human condition. The more you step into the fear and the more you just like let go and trust that everything's gonna be okay and that there's nothing really to fear, that's like how you unlock all the growth and all the magic in your life. I feel like it's like the sameness disease that we all have. We all want to stay the same. That's like just how our brain works and how our brain like tries to protect us.
That's the way society kind of is, though, right? Like people that fit into the same squares, you
Mhm.
know, people are more comfortable with people like them.
Right.
And it doesn't have anything to do with male or female or race or anything like that. It's who's doing the same thing I'm doing. It's easier to be with them than to go outside of that. It's their comfort, right? And it's our safety area. To go outside of that and try something different is very hard for a lot of people. It was probably hard for both of us. Like
Yeah. Oh my
we
God.
knew we needed to change, just like a lot of folks probably listening to us would be like, I need to change too. But that's the other thing that happens, right? It's like, that's really great for Sarah. That's really great for Jody, but it
Right.
won't happen for me.
And I was the same way. It's like you get it. It's like, oh my God, like how did I even say yes? Like that it's in itself is such a miracle. Like when I was told, oh, there's groups and there's community support. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to talk about my weight, especially. Oh, like there's all these books. And I was like, I don't read. Like I haven't read a book in 3 years. Like I don't want to read a book. There's 2 books. Like what? Honestly, I got so lucky in the fact that my dad taught me like to experiment because like life is just one big experiment. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. We're just a bunch of like fishes swimming around in a fishbowl, trying to figure shit out the best we can. I feel like his voice was like, fuck it, try it for 90 days. What's the worst that could happen? And I'm so grateful that I had that mindset because I think just so many people don't have that mindset.
Yeah, something you said earlier before we started recording is that you called yourself a creative.
Mhm.
And that's what I think a lot of people, you're exactly right. That call Monday with Dr. A, the creator of the program, he mentioned the word imagination. He used
Yeah.
imagination.
Yes.
So many people don't have imagination enough to see themselves as that person they really want to be. And
Mhm.
I used the term last night when I was talking about people's setbacks and successes with
Mhm.
program, because a lot of times that setback and that failure and that misstep leads to aha moments. And for a lot of people, I think it has to be vision. They're either or. Like I was saying earlier, right? Like it's black and white. It's either or. They can only see the person they are now that's really in a bad way, or their dream self. And that area in between is the hard place for people to get to. This is me. This is where I want to go, and it looks like an impossible task to get there.
Totally.
Like, how much did you lose again?
147 pounds in total.
147. I lost 161,
Oh yeah.
right? That's There are people that need to lose 10 or 20 pounds.
No, I know.
It's different, but their 10 or 20 isn't any different than our 100 and something, right? Like it still can affect them poorly the same way. It can still make them be in their own head and have no confidence. And I don't take anything away from that, but a journey like ours is very different than a 10 or 20 or 30-pound loss. So, but you and I both probably were from a place where we couldn't imagine that we could be where we are today.
Absolutely not. Oh my God. If somebody told me that I would lose the weight, that I would lose 100 pounds in 10 months, or that I would become a health coach and
Mhm.
leave my tech job and all that stuff, like that I would be able to block my narcissistic ex that I was crazy about for 3.5 years, that I would get like friends and family on program and get healthy with me, like just so many things, that I would have so many friends. Like I was in Dallas for like 5 years and I just like didn't have any friends. Um, it's just, yeah, it's like all the things, like looking back, the girl that I would have said, you're batshit crazy and you scare me and get away. Like that's the truth. Um, so that's hard because it's like, you know, that that's who you're talking to. And it's like, and you sympathize with them because like you get it. And they don't realize how much you get it, I feel like, because they just see you now and they see like, oh, you look great, like you don't even look like you struggle and like you're special, or you know, most people can't do that. But it's like, it's not fucking true at all. Like we're not special, like everybody is special, but like it really just is, the program works, period.
Right. It works for everyone, you know, like they say 100% of the time for 100% of the people that do it 100%. The only variable is us, right? How much do we want it? You lost 100, you said in 10 months. I lost 100 in just shy of 6 months. That's a lot of weight really quickly.
Yeah.
And all we did was follow the plan. You were a 5-1 gal too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we both did the same plan. Big guy like me, little girl like you, and got the same results with the same plan. That's what's amazing. Now, there's different plans for different people depending on their situations, whether you're a senior or a teen or a nursing mom. But for the most part, you can kind of follow the same thing to get the results you need. Like those roadblocks we started with, like I never dreamed I would lose as much weight as I did. I'm way less now than I did when I was a teenager in high school,
No, me too.
you know? It, and it's, I didn't see that as a possibility, but I didn't go there either. Like I hoped I could do that. Like I hoped I could be one of those people like we saw on social media.
Yeah.
Uh, but I didn't. I just did the work every day. I tried to make today as good as I could, and tomorrow as good as I can, and then I let those days, just like dominoes, stack up to a good week, to a good month, to a good year. You know. And I think people just overlook that. And for those of us that did have to lose a lot, it is a grind, right? It is a, some of those struggles never go away. But like I said, you have to work through the hard to earn the easy. As a
Mhm.
Jodyism, right? You have to work through the hard to get to the easy. And the truth is maybe that should be to the easier, because some things are still hard. Like when you've been heavy for a long time. Like how long were you overweight, obese?
My whole life.
Your whole life too?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And you probably haven't been, like I tell people, it's like I wasn't seriously depressed my whole life, but I carried that sadness of being different my whole life.
Mhm.
That's something that's very difficult.
Right. And that I actually like, I still struggle with depression and anxiety. That's something that I have, you know, been struggling with like my whole life. And, you know, but I definitely feel like it's better because like even I posted yesterday that that I was like having a bad day and like I was feeling sad. And then I was just like, what would being sad look like before I started this program?
Before,
And
absolutely.
then that really put shit into perspective for me because I was like, wow, my new like low me is so much better. Like
Mhm.
if I was low in the past and depressed, like I could not get out of bed. I had no like reason to get out of bed. I you know, I seriously like bed was like my safe place with like my weighted blanket and I could just hide from the world, not talk to a soul, you know, eat all the things, order Uber Eats, nobody would ever know.
Yeah.
Um, and you just get so stuck in these habit cycles and these patterns and you feel like you just can't break out of them. And now looking like now, it's like if I'm having a bad day, I can still stay on plan, and I can eat every 2 to 3 hours, and I can hydrate properly, and I can make my bed, and I can unload the dishwasher. And, I just am always thinking like, how can I make my life just 1% better? And I'll force myself to go outside and go on a walk and see the sun and see the trees. And I'll reach out to people in the community. I'll call my friends, my family, and say, hey, like, I'm feeling low. Whereas in the past, I would just hide because I had like, I wanted so badly people to think that I was strong like all the time, even though it was like so obvious to everybody else that I was struggling. um and then you just realize how silly it is, and like everybody is struggling like with
Mhm.
something at all times. And then
Right.
I used to think I was such an alien too, like I was so different, and I wasn't going to fit in this organization or like anywhere really. And then I realized like everybody feels like an alien. Everyone,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And
We
like,
all do.
and we're all a bunch of weirdos, and we're all just doing our best. And like it just woke me up to like all the BS stories that I had about myself. Yeah.
I
And
just said on a video yesterday the stories we tell ourselves, because we're always going to be our own worst critics.
yeah.
We're always going to, our inner demons and dialogues always going to be way worse than anything our worst enemies in our lives will ever say or think about us, by far. That's the reason so many of us probably have failed in the past. And I was the same way. Like, I've dealt with depression off and on for years, and it took me a long time to even use that, like the D word, right? Especially as a guy,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're not supposed to feel the feels like the ladies do, which is BS too. I
Crazy
mean,
because the suicide rate for men is so much higher.
I I mean that's where I came from when I started, right? Like, you probably have heard it, but I was very suicidal off and on most of my life, but I came very, very close right
Mhm.
before I found our program, you know.
Yeah.
Uh I mean, it's one of those things where that's another thing that I never really wanted to talk about, but it's part of, I talk about it now because it's important and people need to know that it doesn't matter how far down you think you are, that there's always something better and a reason to go on. I remember kneeling in my backyard here the night I was going to do it, and how very close I came. And one of the last thoughts I had was, I didn't want the last thought people had of me to be the person I was in that moment, you know? And the thing with suicide too is, call it karma, call it uh, what you will, but so I feel like that pain that we feel when we're in that moment, it never goes away, right? It may go away for us, but it just transfers to those that care about us. So there's absolutely no reason to do that. If you have any love for anybody else in your world at all, you never want to do that, because all you're taking is all that pain that you're experiencing and just giving it to the people that you leave behind. And I thought about that and I was like, I don't want to do that, because I knew that I was still loved and cared about by
Yeah.
my friends and my family and stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm very glad that I didn't. I don't know what your beliefs are or not, but
No, I
God definitely stayed my hand that night that I didn't. And I feel so much better that I didn't, for no other reason than I'm impacting other lives now.
I
Even
have
a few that I do, I make a difference to other people. And it has given me great purpose being a part of this program, impacting other people's lives.
yeah.
Because we all just want to feel good, right? Or at least if we're having, like you said, a bad day, that we feel better than we did way before. Like,
Right.
my worst day now is so much better
Right.
than before I lost the weight and I got myself together.
Yeah.
Uh, I just deal with it differently and better nowadays.
Totally. And I had a similar story. Like I have struggled with like suicidal ideation for most of my life. And yeah, it's not something that people really talk about, because I feel like we're always trying to just show our highlight reel of like how just like the best parts of ourselves, and we don't usually share the dark stuff, but we need to, because so many people are sitting in the darkness and in the shame and the hiding. I also had a similar backyard praying moment of like, I wrote a letter to my father who had been passed away for like 12 years. And I just wrote him a letter out of desperation, basically just asking for his help and his advice, because I was feeling so lost. Like I felt like there was something more for me in life and that I just couldn't figure out what it was. I was not spiritual before and I was not religious before, but now I do consider myself spiritual. And you could call it God or the universe or source, you know, whatever it is. I do feel that there is something greater than us all. And even the fact that I say that and believe that, like I would have thought I was crazy too, but I just, it was too many coincidences. And I felt the same way of like, I didn't want to be here anymore, but I also like loved so many people that I was like, I just absolutely could not do that. I cannot, that's not an option. So if that's not an option, then it's like, we got to figure some shit out. And it's unfortunate because I think a lot of people that we're wanting to reach, like they have to get to that low point to make like real change.
And that's what it comes down to. It's like, I guess I said it earlier, that if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to make it happen, right? When people are worried about all the what ifs it doesn't, it's you do have to get to that point where what if it does? What if the opposite were true? Like we've heard some of the leaders say that, right? And it's like, I'm reading the John Maxwell book now. I think it's on leadership, but it's very applicable. And there was something he said in there, just kind of offhanded in one of his chapters. Try not and ask yourself, can I? Ask yourself, how can I? Like, give yourself that one simple word that changes that entire question, right? Not can I do this, but how can I do this? Give yourself the option to find the solution. Because the stories we tell ourselves are so wrong for so long, we're not asking ourselves, how can it be different? We're just kind of stuck into that, well, it's always been this way. Like you said, you never read before, right? A lot of people are like that, well, I'm just not a reader. Water makes me gag. I don't like vegetables. I can't afford it. I don't have time, right? You have these stories that you tell yourself that are most likely not true and not even close, but that's that negative mentality. That's why I tell everybody it all starts and ends with mindset. What you tell yourself is what's true. If you're in a positive place when you start and you're open-minded, just being open-minded makes all the difference in the world. Right. We learned that in the life book early on. There's a reason those first 5 elements are all about kind of mindset stuff. Yeah. Because you have to want to be different and understand you need to be different. There's no easy button for losing 140, 150, 160 pounds, right? You have to do the work. I mean, trust me, and you do have to be open-minded to change some stuff. I wasn't eating near enough vegetables. I wasn't drinking near enough water. I was spending a fortune every day when I was really honest with myself to eat as much as I was eating, to drink as much as I was drinking, numbing all the stuff. Like you've been there too, right? You just numb those feelings with either food or alcohol or other things. Luckily, I never did the other things, but that's what a lot of people do. They don't want to feel it enough to want to change it. And it's kind of, it's a bad place to be. And it does get to the place where we just don't want to do it anymore. And knowing what I know now, see, that's the other thing I had to do too. I had to forgive myself for everything that came before. My family and what part they played in me getting heavy at a young age. And, you know, the grandparents that fed me like crazy, and the relationships that didn't work out that led me into bad places in my life. And, you know, I had to let all that go. You're not going to live for your future if you're still trying to live for your past.
Yes. Yes.
And it's something along the same lines. It's true. It's like you can't fix your future if you're still trying to fix your past.
I was so stuck in my past before. Like when I was in the present moment, I was still stuck in the past. I was like not able to be in the present moment. And what Dr. A says is like lead from the future and act in the now. And when I first heard him say that, I was like, what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, I didn't even understand. And now it's like, it makes so much sense. And in order to like move past all the shit from the past, I mean, it's in the past and you can leave it there and you can move forward and not bring it with you. And like, just knowing that is so freeing. But like when you know what it is that you're working towards, it is like pulling you, instead of before I was just like floating and I didn't have a vision and I didn't allow myself to dream and I didn't feel worthy to have the things in life that other people had or all of the stuff. But it really does, I think, start with having a strong why you want to change, and also like what is it that you want to create for yourself, like what life do you want to have, and then honor how it is that you want to feel, even if you don't feel that way now. I also remember in the beginning like joining the Client Strong page with like, I think there's like 65,000 people on there or something. And the quote at the top of the page said, the best thing I ever did was believe in me. And
Yeah.
I will never forget seeing that. And what my gut instinct and reaction was like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, what? I was like, these people are nuts. That was what I thought. And now,
Yeah.
like after a year, I'm like, holy shit, no, that's like the secret sauce. That's it right there, is like, and to just, it's so crazy like how much change can happen like when you really commit to improving yourself. Truth really is like believe in yourself, because so many people out here doubting their greatness, doubting their worthiness.
Isn't that from Ted Lasso? It's believe and believe.
Oh, I don't know. I've
Something
never
like that.
watched Ted Lasso, but I heard it's really
It
funny.
it's really pretty great, and it's a lot of it is mindset and stuff. Then it's why it's a great and very funny show. But it really is, and you mentioned the why, and it really is about the why power over the willpower. Like most people come into a diet with a diet mentality, and they can white knuckle it through, especially guys, because guys see results pretty quickly when they come on board. And so it's easier for them to just white knuckle through because they're still in that mentality about all the stuff they're giving up as opposed to all the stuff they're gaining. It is one of those things too, where people feel like, I call them the Asians, right? People come in thinking they have to have all the Asians. They have to have the motivation and the dedication and the determination. And the fact of it is, and the truth of it is you build all that with a little action.
Yeah.
Once you start and start having some success, that's the greatest way to feel those batteries of the motivation. Motivation is, I want to get up and start walking every day. Determination is, I'm really tired because I had a long day yesterday, but I'm going to get out there and walk anyway. The determination locks in by the fact that you use your motivation and dedication to get there. And then it just adds on to itself. Something you said earlier too that just struck me about laying in bed and just staying in there. Like I was really to that point too before. Like I spent so much time alone. Isolation I call is the great white shark of change. It's the reason that so many of us, like it'll stop you before you ever start, right? And that's one of the reasons why so many people I think fail on other programs. Because let's face it, if it's a calorie in, calorie out thing, there's so many diets that would work for people, and they have. We're all Albert Einstein when it comes to losing weight. The problem is we're all Forrest Gump when it comes to keeping it off, which is one of the biggest things I think our program has over other ones, is that there's so many resources to keep you from falling back in the other direction. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen, but there's so many reasons to not isolate. Our community is a big reason I've been so successful.
Same.
You know, being engaged and involved and accountable and showing up and building these relationships. You know, you and I didn't know each other before you came on program. I'll be at 3 years come January. Wow. So, but that's why I was like reaching out to you today. It's like, this is a cool young lady. Yeah. She's done really well. And she's someone that I want to have a conversation with because, and we didn't know each other from Adam before.
No. I mean, I knew you because I remember hearing about your story when I started my journey, and you inspired me because I was like, well, he did it, so maybe I can do it type of thing. And you also like inspired me to reach out to my brother, and and you helped with having him join program and get healthy. I mean, yeah, so crazy. I never would have thought any of that would have happened.
I appreciate that. I remember having the conversation with you too and your brother, because I do that a lot. Like, and I'm always so humbled, and I feel weird about the praise that people give me for what I've done, because I'm just like everybody else. I feel like, and if anything, I feel like I still have a lot of work to do, and
Mhm.
but I think that's part of what resonates with people. Like, they see in me that even though we have the bad days, even though I may fail one day, my mindset is I'm not going back to who I was before,
Mhm.
because my vision is forward, not back now. And even though, and I have, Gina Hargis is one of the ones that was the first one that said to me, "Is like, honey, your dreamer is broken." And I still have a hard time seeing what I really want, who I really want to be. But it's kind of fun, kind of figuring that out, and moving forward and still looking back.
It's
That's what's really hard to get people to invest in, is the fact that things can be different. They can be better. They can be fun. You know, Being on a diet is hard and stressful and can be defeating. But doing the things to change your life and be a different and better and more well-rounded best version of yourself, that's very empowering, you
yes.
know?
Yeah,
So
1,000%. Because like I was already like really into the self-help stuff because I had been really struggling with my anxiety for years. Like to the point where I was even agoraphobic for a minute and I didn't know if I was ever gonna be able to like leave my apartment. I was already like I was reading like The Power of Now, and what was the other one? You Are a Badass. And like I was reading all this stuff and like not believing it though, and like wasn't
yeah,
really receiving it. And it wasn't really until I started reading Dr. A's books and like really confronting myself, and
mm,
um really being open to change. And it's really, my dreamer was turned off too, but I slowly got it back from those small dreams of like, well, maybe I can eat every 2.5 hours, like,
right. You
and
took
then,
those small wins and those small
yeah,
victories.
maybe I can drink 64 ounces of water today. And then you're like, you do one good day and you're like, I did it. Okay. And then you do it again and then again and again. And then by day 4,
Dominant.
I was like clear-headed for the first time maybe in my entire life. And I was like, oh shit, what is this feeling? Like, and then you're like, okay, well, I can do a week. And then you do a week. And then before you know it, you do a month. And then I was down 20 pounds in the first month. And it took me over a year to do that on my own. And yeah, it was just like you just need little wins and then you get big wins. And then like I feel like it started waking up my dreamer a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And then yeah, I mean it's seriously, it's just, I think that's the thing with like other ways of losing weight. Like you don't see results. Like it, and then you just think, well, like I'm killing myself at the gym and I'm so sick of eating salad and like I'm not losing anyways, so I'm just going to eat this cupcake and like who cares, And then we get stuck in that trap, in that cycle. Um, but yeah,
That's that diet mentality that tells people they got to do all that stuff a certain way. I got to eat this way. I got to give all this up. I got to spend all those hours in a gym.
right.
And nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
I had got up almost to 400 pounds. And even though I've been active most of my life, I've been a heavy, I was in, I was healthy for a big guy until I wasn't. That's what a lot of guys got to understand. Your 20s and 30s and even your 40s look very different than once you get into your 50s like me, and it catches up with you. You can only play Russian roulette with your health for so long before it does catch up with you. Maybe it's something minor at first, but and when I started, I had a lot of health stuff. I had got really, like, so my big 2020 was horrible. It was horrible for all of us, right? The average weight gain And it was an average weight gain was 29.5 pounds for the average American during COVID in 2020. I probably gained almost 3 times that, I think, on top of an already 300 and some pound.
Me
You
too.
know, I just went the opposite direction. Uh, I lost 17 pounds of muscle mass with that like 60 some pounds of weight gain. It was a horrible year. So like even like the exercise, I remember my coach and some of the others saying, yeah, it's a very non-exercise program. That's part of it later. So I was like, okay, but I did embrace the just moving more, right? I started getting out of that bed and at least sitting in the chair upstairs. I started getting out of that chair and doing chores around the house. I started taking short walks around the backyard and back in just to move, just to do something different, right? Like the dominoes that could impact it. And I lost, like I said, 100 pounds just under 6 months. And I didn't exercise at all in that first 100 pounds. But then my body was ready. My mind was ready. It was all in the right place. I couldn't hold back the energy of wanting to do that anymore. And I really embraced the exercise side of things. And I haven't stopped walking since. And I mostly and I don't spend hours at the gym. That's not me.
Right.
I do stuff around the house, upper body exercises and stuff like that, some push ups. I do a lot of push ups nowadays, and I walk a lot, you know, but that's really all I do. But you're right. It's changing a habit you used to do into something else that's more productive. Like if I'm having a bad day, I know I feel better when I go outside, even if it's cool or it's not so nice, and I just walk a little.
Yeah. I know. And with like the working out stuff, like I had so many personal trainers, and I mean, I was able to lose weight, by diet and exercise in the past, but I was never able to keep it off. I was never able to keep up with it. And I always felt like working out was torture. Like I never enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
after losing the weight and then going to the gym, I'll never forget doing the Stairmaster. I think I did the Stairmaster for like 20 minutes. I've never been able to do that in my entire life. I could maybe do it for 5 minutes and I would be like panting, and that would be like my warm up. But I was able to do it for 20 minutes and I felt like I actually could have gone more, and I wasn't in pain, and I had endorphins, and it like felt good. And that was like the first time that was such an aha moment, because I was like, oh, this is why people exercise, because it can actually be fun and like make you
Mm-hmm.
feel
Yeah.
good. Because like fun fact, I almost failed high school because I refused to dress for gym. I refused to dress for PE. I had such a terrible relationship with exercise and physical activity. Like I always just felt so burdened by my body. I felt like a victim of my body. And that was like so far from the truth. And now like I'll thank my body. I'm like mindful of like if I'm in the shower and I'm like scrubbing my arm or my knees, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for all the shit I put you through. And I'm so sorry. Like, please forgive me.
Yeah.
But that was like not me before at all. I totally took my body for granted. I took my health for granted. But even like I had high cholesterol and my doctor wanted to put me on Lipitor. And I was like, oh my God, I'm only like 32 and it's starting already. Like, here it goes. And it's true. Like, you either pay for your health or you pay for your disease, period.
For
Because if
sure.
you don't get healthy now, like it's going to cost you. Like the pharmaceutical companies are making crazy money. The food corporations are making crazy money. The hospitals, like everything. And it's not like, I don't know, you have to look at it and be like, why are they making so much money? Why are we all unhealthy? Why don't we have more healthy eating places? And why don't we, I don't know. It's all just so crazy and backwards.
It really is kind of one of those things where I remember growing up, even the fast food was different than it is nowadays. And the amounts of food that we eat as Americans has gotten so much more. That's what happens with the refined sugar, the refined flour, the saturated fats, everything that makes a donut tasty. that's 60% of the American diet is those things that's in their food. Throw in the high sodium, and the way that we all kind of have, over the last 3 or 4 decades, we've all gotten so much more busy and so much more stuff going on, and their lifestyles are so much more, quick, 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 and we're always in a rush. That's what's happened, is that the convenience of our lives has led to making us as unhealthy as we are. We're not as active as our parents were, not anywhere close as active as our grandparents were. We have dishwashers, and we have washers and dryers, and we have mowers that assist when you push them. And we have all this automation and technology that's making our lives so much easier. We just don't have the movement that we used to. Throw in that we're consuming so many more calories than ever before. And the thing about the salt and the sugar and the flour and the saturated fat and everything is it triggers all of our pleasure centers in our brain that we want more of it, and that we need more of it. It is a straight drug. So instead of fixing that and working on it, we go to actual drugs to assist with all that. So we have to have things to help with the high blood pressure and high cholesterol and all of those kind of things. And instead of just fixing the problem to begin with, you and I were both very obese when we started, and our mentality was right there with it, and it's hard to think differently. And even now I catch myself, because I'm at a place where I can have some of the old favorites, which turns out they're not all that favorite anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll catch myself doing way more food, because that's what I always did, than what I used to do before, even though I don't need it and I don't want it. So we always have to fight those old tendencies for the way things used to be.
Yeah. And I think even just like the awareness part is so important, because even just having that awareness of like, oh, like I see this old pattern trying to come back up and trying to sneak its way back in, and then to just like acknowledge it and stop, challenge, and choose, which we use all the time to make better decisions. But so many people don't have that in their tool set, and like don't know that they can stop and challenge what it is that they're thinking or that they're doing, or, and just taking a breath, taking a sip of water, because we're all just so reactive, react.
Right.
Actually like pause, and you can respond, and you can think, okay, does this decision take me farther away from where it is that I'm going, or is it taking me closer to where I'm going and what it is that I want? And like when you really know what you want and what you're going towards, there is no other decision.
Before I read in our life book about some of these things, about stop, challenge, and choose, and knew that the reason that's so important is because a decision made for instant gratification right now could be very different 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds from now. I called it the pause when I started. Like, I told myself that before I put anything in my mouth or I drank anything that was not part of the program, so to speak, that I would give myself a pause to just say, wait a second, am I really hungry, or am I just bored? Am I really thirsty, or what's going on with me? And just give myself that pause. And we call it in the program stop, challenge, and choose, because you will make a very different decision. But the thing that's empowering for people that have struggled with weight their whole life is just by using that, even if you make a decision that doesn't serve you, at least you've reasoned with yourself why you want to do it now. Like, well, it's a special occasion, or I feel like if I give into this one craving now, that it will help me get back on track for the next month. Because it's not a cheat, it's a choice, right? A choice we make now, all choices have consequences, good and bad. If you say no to that donut, your consequences are you're going to stay in fat burn and you're going to get closer to your goal. If you decide to have the donut, even after you stop, challenge, and chose, and gave yourself that pause, at least you didn't just fall prey to just the craving. And I tell people all the time too, cravings, they're physiological, they're not biological. None of us crave pasta. None of us really crave, a donut. We want it, It's like any habit that you've learned, you can unlearn. You just have to give yourself enough time. And that's why it's so important to get into the whole healthy habit thing, because it becomes easier as you do it more often, right? It's easier to get all your water in once you start doing it consistently every day. It's easier to eat every 2 or 3 hours if you consistently do it every day. It's easier to not have the donuts sitting on the counter at work or something and go for one like everybody else when you've not done it enough times.
And that's so true. I think that's really the core of the program. It's about healthy habits, and habits are simply things that you do over and over and over until you don't even think about them. You just do it because that's just who you are now, because it's like totally installed into your being.
Right.
It takes 66 days to form a new habit. So I think a lot of times people get discouraged before they hit that 66-day mark. I remember like living with my grandma for a short period of time. She was so disciplined and I was not at all. But she was like very like, you have to make your bed every day. You have to do this every day. I totally thought she was nuts, but now I'm like, wow, no, it really is about all your habits and your rituals and like,
Exactly right.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that
people
was like,
will
wow,
say that to
really?
us, right? Like, oh, you have this. I just don't have your discipline. It's like it's not discipline. It's now just who I am and what I do.
Right.
It's our habit,
Yes.
right? And habits build the discipline. Like your
Right.
grandmother did that so often that became her habit. She just makes her bed every day, right?
I'm like, am I a disciplined person now? Like that is just like anybody who knows me, like they would, yeah, it's just insane
I
because
have to admit, I think you and I are probably very similar that way. Like beforehand, we probably would have never thought of ourselves as disciplined people,
never, ever,
and
ever.
probably still don't. I don't. I just feel like I've done the work enough that it's easier to do the right thing over the wrong thing when it comes to my health. And that's where I go back to the vision thing. I didn't see myself as a healthy person for quite a long time.
Right.
But all of a sudden one day it's like I
Yeah.
just was someone that walked. I
Yeah.
just was someone that exercised 5 or 6 times a week. I just was someone that said no to alcohol
Mhm.
way more than I ever thought I would.
Mhm.
You know, that's the other thing too. Chris Owen, the first time I heard him say it this way, it just kind of struck a chord with me that one of the first things he did is he gave himself permission to think differently.
Mhm.
And,
Yep.
and that's the way he said that is always the way I've thought about it for
Mhm.
myself. I gave myself permission to think differently, to do things differently than I ever had before. And by allowing myself to do that, giving myself enough time, it's just who I am now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big moment for me too. I also had a mentor say that of giving yourself permission. And that was like a moment for me of like, oh my God, that's so true. I feel like everybody's always waiting for like validation or like approval from these outside sources telling you like you can and can't. And I think that stems back from like childhood of like, can I use the bathroom? And like just like how we're systematically like programmed to always ask somebody outside of ourselves to do things,
Yeah.
and we're not taught like as adults like no, like you are your keeper, you are your own keeper, and like you are in charge. And that was such an empowering like aha moment. And yeah, I couldn't agree more.
The way that Dr. A says it in the books is you have to be the dominant force in your own life.
Right.
This community might empower us, but it's our decisions. Our coach might really help us along, but it's up to us to do the work. You know, the literature might teach us a lot of stuff, but it's up to us to open it up and actually want to be open minded and learn it. The diet part of what we do is the easiest part. Like he says it in the book, it's very goof proof. It's very structured. It's predictable, consistent results if you just do it. It's just getting to that place where you want to be these different versions of yourself. It really has been something. People use journey all the time. And I started saying it's my quest, you know, quest to be my best, quest to be better. A journey has an idea of a destination. A quest seems like something that you're always trying to do. And that's the thing though, there's no finish line for for what we're doing and what we're trying to become. And you should always want to learn more. You should always want to be better. You should always want to try and improve and be that different, better version. Because there is no finish line to ultimate health, right? There's only one finish line when we're not here anymore. So,
Totally.
and that's what was so cool about the whole blue zone thing and ultimate health and longevity. And I'm going to be talking about that tonight when I do those last two elements. It's kind of cool, the idea that nobody would want to live 100 years or more if they're in an unhealthy place, you
Right.
know? And, this is the sad part, Sarah. You don't see a lot of 100-year-old overweight and obese and morbidly obese people
Oh,
who
no.
just live that long.
But you wouldn't want to live that long either. Like the people who are
No,
feeling sick and like not good, like in
diseased.
pain, like if you say, oh, you could live to 100, they're like, no, thank you. Because they cannot even imagine, like you just can't. You can't like imagine that you actually could feel good and you could live to 100. And that blue zones was really eye-opening because a lot of the men and women were actually both living to 100, whereas like we're taught in our society that men just die sooner and that's just the way it is, but it's just not true. And it's like it's really because like men are taught like to not talk about their feelings and
Right.
to stuff it all down, and you have
Put a
to be
Band-Aid on it. Put
strong.
some
Yeah,
dirt
and
on
you have to work yourself to death, otherwise you're worthless. And like it's all of that stuff, really. And it is such a shame because you don't see men live past 80 usually. I think a lot of guys out here get heart attacks way earlier than they should.
I mean, uh, and that's something about people always, well, when they use the excuses of why they can't start or whether, one of the things is it's just not the right time. And, everybody says that, but it's like, you know what? If you keep waiting for the right time, you're going to run out of time
Yep.
because it catches up with you sooner or later. I'm just looking for the sign. That was a big thing that I've heard from people too. It's,
Like, here's your sign.
yeah. And I tell people, it's like, okay, I got hit by lightning at one point, and it was more than 5 years later before I did something about my health and had a bunch of other health stuff happen after that day before I'm like, maybe somebody was trying to tell me something then. Like, we're hard headed, right? We're hard headed to make those improvements. It's like if you get hit by lightning and you don't change, what kind of sign are you really looking for? Because it didn't get me either. And people, like I said, live in that regret by all the things that they didn't do and things like that. That's something that I still think about sometimes. Like when you said that you were 32 when you started, were you 33 now? I guess
Yeah.
you're so young. Like I would have loved to have heard about this program and did this when I was your age. Are you
I feel
kidding me?
so lucky. I
You know
know.
what I mean? And it's exciting for me to think about it though. For you though, like I can't feel bad about myself, because I'm sure that some of the other seniors on our page feel the same way about me.
Oh,
That
yeah.
like
Yeah.
70, 80 years old, having success on our program the same way as we have. By the way, it's like I wish I had been 50 some years old, when I figured this out and did this then. But like we said, we can't go back and fix the past. All we can do is do the work now to fix our future. It is pretty amazing too, all the seniors that I know on program and how well they've done.
I know. They're amazing. Just their spirits. They are so young, like, and they're
Yeah,
growing up so youthful and vibrant, and like they're dancing on calls and they have their weights at their desk and like
yeah.
using Zoom. Like that is amazing. You just don't see that.
It is quite the community that we have. I don't think that people understand that that's such a huge part of it is when you have a tribe of people pulling for you, whether you're very young or very old, whether you're whatever you are, as man, woman, or whatever, like we all pull for each other to be successful. And
Mhm.
we all kind of feel for each other to be successful. And I have coach friends that I knew a year ago or so when you started that have pulled away and aren't part of it and aren't doing so well. It's not like there's every story is a success story, but the ones that have done all the other things other than just treated it like a diet are the ones that are still around and doing very well.
Right.
That's been encouraging to me too. How many of
Yeah.
our leaderships and mentors know that have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years under their belt that have maintained their weight and stayed on track and been successful? That's what always been very encouraging to me too, is because people use that, right? It's like, well, what do I do when I come off the plan? Right? Well, what about what happens then? It's like, how about we do this month and
Right,
see
right.
how that goes? And then we'll have that conversation 3 months or 6 months or a year from now.
Yeah. But it's true, like what you're saying, because it really is, it's about lifelong transformation. And one big aha moment for me was like, you're never going to be totally healed. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, you never will. Like, you can heal through things, work through things, level up, but you should always be getting to the next level and learning the next new thing until you take your final breath, you know?
Yeah.
And when they say like, oh, like when you hit your goal weight, that's just the beginning. Like, I believe that's true, because that is like, it's not like, oh,
100%.
okay, now I'm going to go back to eating donuts and like go back to all my old habits and all my old ways. It's like, no, like you take with you all the things, all the growth that you've had, and then you don't stop growing. You don't stop. You keep going.
The people that I know that have failed some and maybe come back around, it's because they didn't embrace any of these other things at first. And they made their success all about the number on the scale, right? I want to weigh this amount and then I'm out.
Yeah.
And they didn't invest in any other thing than that. And you especially see it with women, because, and it is harder on women because their culture is less, our culture is going to be a lot nicer to me at 20 or 30 pounds overweight than it will at you, right? It doesn't make it right, but that's kind of the reality. I think that's part of the reason so many men are so reluctant to do anything about it, because they're forgiven more when it comes to weight in general.
Yeah.
The dad bods is kind of a thing now, and it's okay. There's something to be said for body positivity and loving who you are. And that's something a lot of us struggle with, right? Even I do. A lot of guys do too. You have to be able to get past all of that, because it's not, that's what's so cool about the seniors. They're not doing this for vanity reasons.
Right.
They're not doing this for a number on the scale. They want to see their blood work get better. They want to see their energy increase. They want to see their aches and pains decrease. And there's no program that's a magic going to make that happen. Genetics are always going to play a part. But when you're overweight, obese, more, every single doctor will tell you, get some of that weight off, and you could see improvements in all these areas, all of them across the board. And I don't know anybody like you or like I or anything. You probably never had to start those medications for your blood pressure, or did you? The only thing that happened to me when I got hit by lightning is it did mess up my heart. It messed up the electrical function of my heart. So before I started, I had went into complete and total heart failure, so much so I had to get a pacemaker. And I'll always have to have a pacemaker. But the quality of my health, when I'd lost the 100 pounds, my heart had pretty much completely healed itself. Now, that may not be everybody's results, but I became 6 months in, after losing 100 pounds, I was no longer classified as being in heart failure, and I'll always have to keep track of it. My medications were cut in half. They were changed from being so aggressive because my heart had got so much better. That's the exciting part for me, is that you see people that were once very much unhealthy just getting healthier. And it's not about that number on the scale.
Right.
And that's the goals that they set that helped them too, right? That's why I like the Renfro type scales and the apps, because it's more than just your gravitational pull to the earth that says it should be this number. What is your BMI? What's your fat percentage? What's your bone density? What's your biological age versus your virtual age because of the health of your body? Like, all of those things are really cool to kind of work toward. Just like you said, right? What comes next?
I'm totally all for body positivity. I think sometimes people can feel like we're like fat shaming, and it's like so far from the truth, because like I'm so grateful for like companies like Torrid or Big and Tall, or like those companies that made me
EXL.
feel like I could still wear clothes and I was worthy of having good clothes because you are. That version of me who was 314 pounds, I was not less worthy. I was just as worthy as I am now. And everyone is. And I just want to make that totally clear. I personally needed to get the weight off in order to come to a place of accepting myself.
Mhm.
And it was just something that I felt like I needed to overcome before I leave this earth. It was like always that one thing, like, why can't I just do this one thing? Why can't I just get healthy and stay
Mhm.
healthy? And I would always tell myself, the negative crap, but I really was in pain before, and I really wasn't doing it for vanity reasons either. I was like scared for my life and I didn't want to have surgery.
I definitely was 100% scared for my life because I was where I had improvements with my heart stuff. It had through 2020, it had gotten way worse again. And I remember that was one of my greatest non-skill victories, which I guess was kind of a skill victory too. Because of the pandemic and stuff, I didn't see like either my cardiologist or his PA for quite a long time there. And the last time his PA was the last one I saw, she saw me at my worst. It was somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas before I started program because I started January 11th or 12th of 2021. So she saw me someone there when I was at my worst. I was probably 120 or so pounds down when I saw her. And she was like, we hugged it out, you know, and we cried together. And that's an amazing thing with a doctor.
Yes.
Uh, and she told me, she was like, the last time I saw you, I didn't think I'd ever see you again.
Oh my God.
Uh, you looked so bad. And the heaviness you had, not just your weight, but like in your mind, like I could tell you were so just done and depressed. I didn't think you'd ever come back here again, that you were done. And she was 100% right because I was, you know, I was going through the motions for other people for my health. And you know how it is being the big person, you're funny and you kind of do
Yeah.
all these things. And that is part of who we are. It's not like I was being fake,
Yeah.
but most of my life I spent trying to make other people comfortable,
Right.
even though I wasn't. But
Right.
that was an amazing visit with my doctor to have that validation and to be a completely different person when I went back in. I get emotional a lot, like I'll cry at the drop of a hat. But thinking about that
Our
really,
men
really
need
got to me
that, you know?
because it was one of my greatest moments
Yeah.
through this whole journey. Is that yeah, I'm in a better place. So even those bad days, just
Right.
thinking about days like that means everything.
I know. I had a similar experience with my doctor because she kept telling me, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. And I would be like, I'm trying, like I'm doing all these things. I hadn't seen her for 6 months. And then she thought that I had surgery. She thought I had weight loss surgery. And I was like, nope, I'm just doing this thing. I'm just eating all these snacks. And I like gave her my peanut butter bar and she was just amazed. And she was so happy. But it's like our doctors, they do so badly want us to be healthy. And
Mhm.
they really just don't know how to like do it and to help us really.
So many people, and we even talked about it earlier with there's just a drug for everything, right? And our doctors are almost throwing the towel in on a lot of that stuff that they're just like, take the medicine. Because as a society, we just don't want to do the work to not have to take the drug. We'd rather just take the pill for it. We'd
Right.
rather just get the shot for it, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, and it's really kind of sad. I have a really great cardiologist. I'm probably only alive for real because I got referred to him through a really great friend of mine and got with him very early on. He's the one that actually did my pacemaker defibrillator surgery, and I was so bad there for a while that I probably shouldn't have lived through all that, especially being as heavy as I was. Now, again, genetics played a part in that, and knock on wood, I was very fortunate, even though I was overweight my entire life, literally from the age of one. Like people say that they were heavy their whole life. It's in my medical records that at a year old I was overweight. Uh, so it's been there a long time. I passed 200 pounds at 10. So I've lived more of my life as a fat guy than a healthy guy. That's why heart habits like that, especially for folks like us for so long, it's their brains just have to play catch up and get used to who we are now. The changes that I made, I've done so much more work between my ears than on my body. And that's made more difference to me overall than it's been great getting all this off and being less than I weighed before I went through puberty. But the greatest accomplishment has just been all this mental stuff because I'm just so much more together, lack of a way to say it. Like there's never going to not be stress and struggles and problems and setbacks and heartbreaks and deaths and things that you have to deal with that are very, very hard. It's just we become better equipped to deal with all that so that our default isn't food and alcohol or drugs or something that is not healthy for us.
Yeah, something outside of us. And
Mhm.
I know I used to feel like so weak, and now I feel so strong and I feel so empowered. And now I feel like I'm like a pillar of strength for my family, for my friends, for strangers that reach out to me, like to my clients. It's like I would have never imagined that I could feel so powerful because I just felt like such a victim before.
It's kind of an amazing feeling.
It is.
For me, I think that people have always looked to me as a leader. Like I was the oldest of all my siblings, oldest of all my cousins. Since I was one of the bigger kids all the time, it just naturally made me the kid in charge, the teen in charge, the adult in charge. So I've always been comfortable in that role, which, like we know with the drama triangle, that led me into hero mode most of my life, where everything became about taking care of other people. And I've even struggled with that of late, especially this year,
Mhm.
because the more people that look to me for answers and help and stuff, I kind of let my own journey, my own quest kind of take a couple hits this year.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to, and I'm back into myself again because we don't ever want to sacrifice. Like moms, especially, are bad for that, and even dads for their family. That's another excuse too, right? Like, I'd do anything for my children. It's like, but would you? Because you're morbidly obese, and so's your husband, and so's all your kids. So, are you really doing everything and would do anything for your kids?
Yeah.
That's horrible to say, and I can only say that with the greatest love and respect because I was an overweight kid.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't blame my parents anymore for their part of it. Like they did have a part to it, but I was a satellite technician for 3 decades, like almost as long as you've been alive. Honestly, I was in so many families from so many cultures and so many races that it's almost like generational that if you saw some, almost all of them are like that. And every time it broke my heart.
Yeah.
And there were points where I was in better shape than others throughout that whole journey of mine through my life and that career. But it always just was so upsetting because you'd see grandma was like that, mama's like that, the babies are like that, the teen moms already had babies that were in bad shape, and it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't have to be that way. At some point somebody's got to break that chain, and that's what I love about our community is there's a lot of people that are kind of having to go it alone. They're having to be the pioneer in their own little world, in their own little circle that nobody else is doing it, but they're trying so hard to do it for themselves. And we hope that there's a trickle down effect with them, that they're going to get their spouse on board, that they're going to get their kids on it. And it's very hard with children because there's been a lot of people that struggle too, where their parents have tried to make them go on diets. And I was like that off and on. Like I remember around 12, mom tried to
Mhm.
to bribe me with an Atari. But then she told everybody if I played football that year what I was doing and it embarrassed the heck out of me. You talk about moments in your life like when I did that year of football, and I love football, but I never played again because of trying to do it that one year, just because it was about my weight and I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was so large that they didn't have pants that would fit me. So they had to get pants from the high school, and the pair they got for me were black. So the only person on the entire field of kids playing had different color pants than everybody else. You talk about not fitting in and feeling like a misfit, and it's just always, and it's something I still think about. But again, that's something that's like, okay, that was just part of something that mentally I had to get past. And sometimes I still feel like that 10-year-old, 200-pound kid,
Mhm.
because that's another reason for me. Like I'll never have six pack abs, and I'll never have this little perfect Ryan Reynolds' waistline. Of course, Ryan Reynolds will never have my smile. But I don't do it for vanity reasons. And I do a lot of the walk and talks that I do, walk and talk with Jody's that I do with my shirt off when I can, not because I'm proud of that. A lot of times I feel guilt and ashamed and, my own body image stuff, but I do it because every single time I do it, it's making me feel a little bit better, that like 1% better,
Yep.
because I don't have a reason to feel bad or feel ashamed. These are the consequences of a lifetime of being overweight. I'm always going to have the love handles. I'm always going to have the stretch marks. It's consequences of a life of being obese.
Yeah.
But I don't have to feel as bad about that as I used to. I still do, and I get in my own head, those inner demons like we talked about, but not near as much as they used to.
I know, like the inner demons, like they never go away. And that's one thing I realized, like even the most successful people, they all have that negative self-talk. It's just, you really do get stronger and you just get more aware and you get better at like being your friend, because like I was not a friend to myself growing up, like learning that I could be my friend was like mind blowing. And like I have to work at it. Like I have stickers around that say like, you got this, you can do it, keep going. And I think so much of this journey like is now that it's like bigger. It's not just about me. It's not just about you. Now it's like it's about inspiring other people,
Helping other people to feel the same way.
Yeah, because it's like we got this, and it's like we never would have imagined that we could have had this, and we got it. And then it's like, then you realize every single person could feel empowered like this and feel good and not in pain. And it's just like, please just take this gift.
It's that moment when we get past the me mentality to the we mentality.
Yeah.
That we really become kind of that better version of ourselves. And that's what's so cool about coaching and doing this kind of thing is it's cool to do it with people way more than it is to try and do it alone. Because so many of us struggle though. One of my other Jodyisms is if you feel unwilling, you'll remain unwilling. As we feel that we're not worthy of doing any of this to better ourselves, we're going to be unwilling to do what we need to do to make the changes. I thought of that one night and I kind of woke up with chills think about it, because so many of us do struggle with feeling our own worth and our own value. I have so many people, just like you said earlier, telling me the sweetest things about how I inspired you and stuff. But in my own head, I'm like,
I'm not.
Question it. Yeah, I'm not worthy. I don't deserve that praise. And I try and be humbled about it. And you saw like at convention this year with me and with pictures, and it was nuts.
Yeah,
like I don't get it, and I've had that happen a few times. It's very humbling and it feels very good, and it makes me feel very proud of all that I've done, but it also is very emotionally and mentally draining, because it's not just it's like people that like with me and fangirl want to get a picture, which that's fun, but they tell me the most incredible stuff about who I am and what it means to them. And I never thought I would be that person to anybody, let alone an entire community of people that know who I am. It's really kind of amazing.
So true. Yeah, like people will be like praising you, like, you inspire me so much, and like, thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up. It's like, those are definitely never things that I thought I would hear either. Yeah, it's a lot of mind fuckery.
It's kind of cool to think about. And that's a reason why I love our community and our coaching community, especially so much, because so many of us came from places of pain that we can now use for our purpose. That's why I really don't like, and it's nothing against these people and God bless them, but there are so many people that are like trainers and nutritionists and all that stuff that honestly have never been there. Right. They've never been overweight a day in their life. They're all, they're young and they look great, and they may be highly educated on macros and nutrients and carbs and calories and all of these things, but they've never been there enough to actually say, look, I get you. I understand. I know what you're going through, more than our community and our people do, because they've been there and been through that.
Oh, true.
It,
That's such a good point.
if you have somebody reach out to you that has, and it doesn't have to be the same either. Like young woman, older guy, a woman and a guy, from our different walks of life and different things like that. It doesn't mean that I can't appreciate and understand your journey just like mine. It doesn't mean it's the same, but because we know what we've been through, we can identify with those people. If you haven't been through those painful things, it's very hard to be someone that can be effective with them. Like that's why I never like gyms and stuff, because there's so many of those type people that are just all about looking a certain way and talking a certain way and fitting in that box like we talked about earlier. And that's just not who I am. And I don't want to have to justify myself with anybody about what I'm trying to do for myself.
Yeah.
And do for others and help others,
So true. Another thing I was thinking about was how you're like the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Around yourself the most, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, when you were talking about chain breakers, will they need the community, because you need people who are going to raise you up. And that's what the community does, is like you could be living in this toxic environment with like toxic people that are trying to bring you down or whatever. But then you have like mentors who have done what you have done and then are like telling you you can do it. And they're like willing to like work through the mental blocks that you're having. Yeah, it's so powerful.
And it's true. We are the sum of the 5 or 10 people we surround ourselves with the most. And we hear it on the client calls all the time, our client support calls, right? People in the chat, the people that don't even want to share it, but they'll share it in the chat, that their family is acting this way or their spouse is making this difficult and this, that, and the other. And, I told a lady the other day in the chat on one of those too, because it was really very hard for her, that she feels like she's so isolated from the rest of her friends and family. And first of all, you don't have to sacrifice your happiness and your health just to make other people comfortable, right? I think a lot of us feel like we have to be a certain way because that's what people have already expected of us. It's okay to contend for yourself and not worry about what other people think. When you start contending for yourself, you'll have the confidence they'll let you say, I'm wanting to do this. I'm wanting to feel this way. I'm wanting it to be different than it's ever been. And you can either get on board with that or you can get out of the way with that. And the truth is that if people can't be happy for you when you start becoming a happy person, maybe that's a relationship that doesn't need to be part of your 5 or 10. I don't care if it's a spouse or a family member or your best friend for decades. If they can't be happy with what you're trying to do for yourself, they don't need to have that close of a place in your orbit. They need to be Pluto, not Venus or Mercury, right? Because they are going to drag you down and they are going to make it way harder than it has to be. And for some people, success breeds that confidence in their family and stuff too. Like talk about a world full of darkness where why do we have to like dim our light instead of letting it shine brighter for people? I'm not going to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go out when I hang out with my friends anymore and drink the things I really don't feel like drinking or eat the things I don't feel like eating. I'm going to try and enjoy my time with them. I'm not going to dim my light so they don't feel as blinded. Yeah. I'm going to let my light shine the way I feel it nowadays. And I'm not going to worry about, they can get sunglasses. I'm going to shine bright.
Mic drop.
Yeah. But it is kind of true. And the thing of it is, and part of that too, is it is a huge mirror. Like in your life as Sarah and watching you over this last year, you've become this kind of different, cool, empowered chick that a lot of people in your life, it's like you're putting this mirror up and they're like, they see themselves that aren't you. And it's scary and it's uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's hard for them because when they hold that mirror up to themselves, they're like, I don't like where I am. I don't like what I'm doing. But then we're also in our own heads and our own worlds. We can't admit that to the people that could help us and want to help us, people like us. We have those people right now. We're coaches. We want to help clients. We want to help the people we love and care about the most. But they're some of the most magnet to magnet about it. And they do feel like when we hold the mirror up that we're talking to them or attacking them. It has nothing to do with you guys. It does, but it doesn't. It's because you're where I was, and I want to bring you along with me because you deserve the same kind of brightness that I feel and light that I feel in my life.
Yeah.
Lightness leads to brightness. You know what I mean? Like as we lose the weight, we just
I like literally feel lighter, but also like lighter.
Yeah, lighter, right?
Yeah.
So many ways. And people tease us about like the cult thing. It's like, I'm like, bring it on. If it's a cult, I'm in it because I'll do the little pencil thin mustache and learn how to do menacing laughs. Because I know so many people now that are so happy with embracing what we're all about. They're the most successful people.
Yeah.
They're the happiest people. They're the ones that have kept their weight off the longest and don't fall apart because they've embraced everything it is to live the lifestyle, not just do the diet.
Right. I know. And I felt exactly the same way. That was like my biggest fear when starting my journey was like, I just saw all these happy people on a Zoom and it terrified me because like it's not used to, I've never like been in a room full of just happy people before, ever. Like I'll never forget going to Kristen Glass's house or like her lake cabin. And then you just see all these like smiling, clear skin, clear eye, clear minded people. And it is terrifying because you don't see that. We don't see that. We see people who are miserable, who are struggling, who are in pain. Like that is normal. That's what we're all used to. And when we see so many happy, healthy people, it was very scary to me. And I would joke and I would say, oh my, like I was like, oh my God, like Kristen Glass and Lene are like probably drinking vampire blood or whatever, which is like terrible. But that's what I thought. Like for real, I was like, what's the secret? What are you guys really doing here? Because you can't just be eating 6 times a day and like, like as you keep going though, and you see like, oh wow, the program works, and like, oh my God, I do feel better. And oh my God, I kind of love these people. And like, why are these people so nice? I love this. And then you're like, I'm like, how can I not coach? Was like, I felt like, how could I receive like such a huge gift and not share it with people? To me, I felt like that would be the most selfish thing that I could ever do. So I decided to coach. And then it's just like, I just feel like life is always getting better and better. And at this point, I'm like, I am the Kool-Aid guy. I'm like, I'll bust down any wall and be like, oh,
that's what I was going to say. I didn't know if you knew that.
Oh, 1,000%. I used to make so many Kool-Aid guy jokes, especially because like they had I forgot which cult it was where
Jonestown.
Yeah, the Jonestown massacre where they drink all the Kool-Aid and that's why you get all the Kool-Aid.
Not suicide, yeah.
Yeah.
The Kool-Aid.
So that's like how I felt in the beginning. So when people say stuff like that, I'm like, I get it. But I'm like, man, even if it is a cult, like what is it? A cult that just believes in being healthy and being your best self and loving people? It's like, fuck yeah, the world needs that.
It's like we talked about a little while ago, spirituality and religion, and it's what you believe in. It's like 95% of the world believe in some sort of higher power. Whether they believe it the same way or not, right. They believe in something. If you find something that works for you and brings you great joy and happiness and purpose and community, and if it's not a destructive thing for you or for your world around you, then yeah, embrace it. and be a part of it. You know, we were not meant to do life alone. You know,
Yeah.
that was the first big
I got that one too.
drive for humankind, was that they realized they were safer and life was easier when they did it together, which is why what we do is so important, because when we do it together, we're way better than the sum of just ourselves. I would never have been as successful. You would never have been as successful if we'd tried to do it by ourselves. We've done it for a lifetime, right?
Yep. I did it for a lifetime on my own, and that was not working for me.
I tell people that all the time, especially the hard-headed guys, right? It's, oh, I just need to hit that gym a little bit more. Let me tell you something, brother. That muscle you had in high school ain't there in your 30s and 40s anymore. You don't just need to hit that gym. You can't outrun the fork. And it's so true. And when people are like, it's just calories in, calories out. All right. One Oreo cookie, you'd have to do 1,200 jumping jacks.
Yeah.
You have to learn to eat differently, to drink things differently, to do stuff differently, to be different. Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. And that's what so many people do with like their health and their wellness and things like that. You know, we're not selling a diet. We're not just selling food. We're trying to empower people to be the people they want to be. They just have to go along the journey with us.
Amen. And even it's Halloween coming up, and you know, I don't even want candy. There's not like a single fiber of my being that feels like I'm missing out because I'm not going to have a Reese's. Like every other year, I would sneak candy. I wouldn't want anybody to know. And I would like take candy from the bowl, eat it, and I would like hide it underneath the garbage can, like something else so nobody would know. And but now whenever I go to the store and I just see aisles and aisles of candy, all I see is drugs. I just know it's going to hijack my brain, and it's going to put on the same chemicals that cocaine would do, you know. And it's like, now I see the branding and the marketing of like disease, and it's changed my whole mindset around food and like what it is I want to put in my body. And it's just a blessing.
That relationship with food is the same with like relationship with other people. When you start thinking about what the fast food and the sugar and all this stuff is doing to you, like a narcotic drug, and that's like that we talk about in the system, it is stacked against us. Our brains still want to work the way it did 10,000 years ago, but we don't live the lives we did 10,000 years ago. So the way things are marketed to us, the way these foods are prepared, the deck is stacked against us. We know that going in. It's just like if you go gamble at Vegas, you know that everything there is designed to take money away from you. But we still do it anyways because we think that we're going to be one of the lucky ones. Did you ever see the War Games, Matthew Broderick War Games? That's an old 80s movie with Matthew Broderick. There's a whole line in it where the computer's going to kill the world. And it's like they figure out that the whole way that you don't annihilate the world is never to play the game. And that's where people's minds have to be when it comes to food and the fast food industry and the drugs to fix the problem. Don't play that game. Take yourself out of that, because it's the only way you're going to win, is to never play. Doesn't mean that you might not still buy that lottery ticket. That's what I was going to say about the way I feel about the program too. It's like, if you knew the winning lottery numbers tomorrow, would you not tell everybody you know
right
to play those numbers?
So true. Yeah.
That's why we post like we do and talk like we do and share what we do. It's like you would not tell your best friend, your family, your coworkers, these are the lottery numbers tomorrow, because you know it would change their lives drastically and dramatically.
And that's what's funny. Like if we posted that and we told every single person, hey, I have the winning lottery numbers for tomorrow, you know, it's funny. Nobody would believe us. And probably nobody would go out and buy the lotto ticket with the winning numbers. And I feel like that's what happens a lot of times is
it's so true though, isn't it?
Crazy.
Like,
yeah.
I know the lottery tomorrow. Play these numbers and you'll win.
Right. And I'd be like, shut up, Jody.
You don't know what I'm talking. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But that's what I think people need to understand when we're posting like we do. It's like, I'm a real person. Sarah Boyer is a real person. These are our real results that we got from doing this program. That's why our company has not got billboards full of advertisements and
Arkansas.
millions of dollar budget on TV and radio and things like that, because nothing's more powerful than your story and my story and people like us. And just like all the people we want to help, there's nothing special about what we've done. We just actually did it. That's the only difference. You're a year in. I'm almost 3 years in. You know, we took that first step, believed in ourselves, even when we didn't. We had to borrow that belief at first, but we're just like, trust us just a little bit. Give me a month, give me 2 months, give me 3 months.
Right.
Then tell me what you think. So
yeah. And I'm still on my journey too. My ultimate goal is to say I lost 180 pounds and to be, at 134, be at a healthy weight, healthy BMI, just one day at a time.
I set a goal of just getting back to 300 when I started, because at least then I could get back into the clothes on.
Right.
But that's my limiting beliefs that I had when I started, that I just wasn't going to do any better than that. I had been basically between, say, 285 and 315 for almost my entire adult life from the age of 17. So 285 to 315. So in my brain, that was my limiting belief, that I've been there before. I know I'm a lot older. I know this, that, and the other. I know I have my health issues and stuff with my heart, but I felt like I could at least do that. I was over halfway to getting to that 300 goal less than 5 weeks in. I'd lost 42 pounds in my first month. So I had to keep setting more goals as those goals kept getting crushed really quickly, you know?
Yeah.
When I got into the 280s again, which is where I graduated high school, I thought that was the end of the rainbow. I didn't think anything else was possible. So, but ultimately I set a goal of 225, and I did get there. I actually got below there some of the days I worked out in the hot sun and sweat a whole lot. But realistically, I kept a goal of around 225 for the better part of the year. But I increased my activity and my exercise and stuff. And I started making it more about maintenance as opposed to getting past that. And I added a lot more muscle mass along the way. But I need to get back to that 225, even with the added muscle mass, because I know that's where I would be healthier and feel better again. So I just this week started back into the weight loss part of it again, where I really haven't been about weight loss for this whole year. And I've never done that before too. I think a lot of people take that for granted. I have maintained a weight longer than I ever have at any other thing I've ever done before. Mm-hmm. First of all, I've lost twice as much weight than I ever did ever before. And I've kept it off 4 times, 5 times longer than I've ever done before. That's the amazing part to me too. And now I've shifted again into wanting to decrease the weight but keep the muscle mass I've added, because I've added almost 18 pounds of muscle mass. I'm 53 years old.
Yeah, I wanted to say, like, how old are you now? Wow, that's crazy. I mean, you look 40.
I'll take it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I knew you were a lot younger. I thought you were in your 20s.
Everybody thinks that. I have a baby face.
It's the hair and the whole attitude and everything too.
I know.
The nose ring and all that.
Yeah.
It is amazing though. Like I didn't think in my 50s I would feel better than I did in my 40s or 30s or even my 20s.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously things hurt from time to time because I am 53, but I'm also doing so much more than I've ever done before. I mean, I walk 35, 40 miles a week.
Wow.
I've been through 3 or 4 pair of tennis shoes since I started walking July. It was July 2nd. So that was another great moment. Like I told you, I've been back to my doctor before and I had a new EKG and hadn't had it done in so long. And my last one, I was still in heart failure. That EKG, when I opened that letter, so July 2nd, 2021, 6 months in, just shy of 6 months, I opened the letter. After I had gotten up that morning, I'd lost 100 pounds. That was the morning I lost 100 pounds. And I opened up the results of the EKG and I saw my heart functionality was like an athlete's. It was better than normal. And I was like, I immediately put my tennis shoes on and I started walking that day. And I've walked every day since. There's been a few days when I was sick that probably I didn't, but we all get some steps in. But I walk at least 4 or 5, sometimes 6 days a week intentionally.
You inspired me. I just started wearing my Fitbit again, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I need to get my move on. I'm gonna drink my EAAs and go for a walk, and you definitely inspired me.
Yeah, I'm gonna get mine in too. I can't believe we talked as long as we would, but I knew we probably
I mean,
would.
honestly, I know we could talk about this forever.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of editing to do. I think it's fun though.
I know. I mean, I could make 12 videos out of this. I feel like we should say like a goodbye or something. Um, like, thanks for joining. Subscribe, do all
Right.
the things,
Thank you so much for joining the Jody Sarah hour,
right? Yeah.
or two.
Our
I guess it
talk
was like
show
2 hours.
podcast.
It has been fun, and it's the truth. You had been on my heart since I saw all that vegetable stuff because you're young, you're sweet, you're pretty, you're quirky, you're smart. You're like all of these cool things that I saw from afar. And the whole idea of me, like, I don't know that I could ever be a veg head with you guys, but the idea of doing way more and way less actual meat, I can kind of embrace. And I'm like, I'm just going to ask this kid about what she thinks about doing this. But it got me to thinking too when I saw that picture because you looked so sad sitting on those steps
Yeah.
and then in that cute dress and that like whatever you were at with the lights and everything,
Yeah.
you looked like such an empowered and
Yeah,
happy version of yourself.
I
I'm like,
agree.
that was so fun to see. So
That
that's
like
why I
is my
reached out and
favorite.
called.
Thank you for reaching out. I mean, that is like my favorite picture of me ever. Like I'm standing there and I am feeling powerful and I am feeling beautiful. And it's like, it's really how I feel that I feel like is coming out. And I feel like that's always been the truth.
I bet when you saw that picture for the first time, you thought that doesn't even look like me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, wow, who's that girl? Because I think when you do lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time, like I feel like it does take your brain a little bit to catch up because
100%.
even sometimes like I'll feel like I'm still, 288 pounds or something, and then I'll look in the mirror and be like, oh, that's cool. When did that happen? Even
Yeah.
though it's been happening. But some days it does feel like unreal. And I never expected to look like good. And like I thought of myself and I identified as an ugly duckling for so long.
Yeah.
And then to like start getting attention from people and like, it's been so
It,
crazy.
it was another one of those things. It was a great non-scale victory for me that, an NSV, because it does take your brain a long time to catch up. And even when I was 120, 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds, like even for a time period, probably a good 6 months or more after I had lost most of the weight and I got into the 220s, that my brain hadn't played catch up. And I would still have dreams. My subconscious was still a very fat guy, right? That was the first. I woke up one morning and I realized I had dreamed about something, but I was who I am now. I finally, my subconscious caught up enough that I'm not dreaming that I'm the fat guy. I'm dreaming that I'm the guy that I am. It's an amazing thing to feel, but it does take your brain a little while to catch up with who you are and who you're wanting to become. I had been that for quite a while. Like I had been 160 pounds down for a good 6 months before I had my first dream where I was who I am, not who I was.
Amazing.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Everybody should want to do what we're doing.
It's such a fun journey, honestly. Like every time I ever lost weight and got healthy in the past, like it was not fun. It wasn't fun. But like this has been so fun and so transformative. And yeah, I just feel like it really is the answer that like I have been praying for, like
Mm-hmm.
literally. And so many people are praying for, like so many people, if they would just say yes, I know they would thank me. I know that in 30 days, in 90 days, in 5 years from now, that they will be thanking me. And that is so powerful to like be able to be that in somebody's life. And that makes me excited to live every single day and to
Yeah.
keep moving forward and to keep growing and keep expanding beyond all of my own BS and stuff that I'm working through, you know? Yeah, it's just so amazing. So thank you for having this call with me.
Thank you. I'm glad
Thanks.
we did this today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for being a veg head.
Trying to be. I'll send you a picture. I'll do a post about it when I do my like stew that I want to put together. I'm still deciding if I want to do it with tofu or with chicken. Maybe I'll do it both ways and see
Oh,
what's.
yeah. See, like Sarah's journey, she did tofu. My journey, I did chicken. Both ways work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the other thing, right? We're so inclusive. Like,
Yeah.
we'll give you the guidelines, but ultimately it's your choice on how you do it.
Yep.
It's like if you absolutely hate spinach, I would never tell you to eat spinach. But I might ask you to try spinach again because you never know.
I love spinach now, which
I
is
used to
crazy.
hate cucumbers, and I love cucumbers now.
Same. I used to not like pickles either. I love pickles.
Change.
Change. It's amazing.